What is of note is that she is the first female president in the history of our country of the Guyana Trade Union Congress. And so the honor is ours today to have someone who in some regards have walked in the footsteps of the man whom we honor to address us. I call to the podium Ms. Gillian Burton, President of the Guyana Trade Union.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. And your words of introduction was somewhat complete in the fact that I have walked in the footsteps of our founder leader. Not only have I walked in his footsteps, but I was one of those young persons nurtured by him. I am one of the persons that you refer to as one of the Burnham babies, since I was born within the 80-day strike. And I was also one of the first young developers of the People's National Congress, that group which our founder leader felt was very evident when he came to the group meetings and saw us running around as children while the adults sat at their meetings. He felt that we were ripe enough to be inducted into the politics of the country. And so I happen to be one of those children privileged to be the first batch of young developers. Mr. Chairperson, members of the head table, members of the media, comrades, it is a distinct honor to be delivering this address on the occasion of the first annual conference of the Burnham Foundation and the observance of the 86th birth anniversary of the person after whom this foundation was named. Linden Forbes Sampson Burnham was not only the founder leader of the People's National Congress, an outstanding attorney at law and a vibrant trade unionist, but he was indeed the father of the nation who led us through independence and republican standards. Most of all, Forbes Burnham was a leader with vision. The vision for the prosperity of all Guyana. His was a revolutionary vision. In his famous speech, The Declaration of Sophia, he said, and I quote, "Basically, ours is the burden and privilege to revolutionizing our economy and society, removing all traces and incidents of poverty and exploitation, and building a new system and state in place of the old, which have proved inadequate. We have to develop Guyana into a prosperous and just society, where the people's welfare and happiness are transcendental." End of quote. In a century when the world faces the challenges of a global economic crisis and the Guyanese nation drifts deeper into the abyss of an economic catastrophe, one cannot help but reflect on the masterpiece of sustainable national growth that Burnham crafted for us. Throughout his leadership, Forbes Burnham advocated the importance of the nation's survival, which hinged on the ability to initiate and execute a program of overall development. Hence, the unveiling of the Feed, Clothe, and House the Nation program, which was the catalyst of the Basic Needs Development Plan, which gives the small man the hope of becoming a real man. While there were those who at the time still believed in the capitalist ideology, which afforded privileges to a few, and to whom development was foreign capital expansion, Burnham placed emphasis on community and national self-reliance, the transferring of economic power to the masses through the use of the cooperative system. The FCH program was primarily to benefit the people. Under this program, Burnham proclamated the social use of land. His belief was that land should be utilized for housing and agricultural purposes. Hereafter, the many thousand acres of sugar estate lands left idle and uncultivated for many years were now taken possession of and used for the development of housing schemes and agricultural production, especially rice by the cooperatives. The term land to the tiller was born out of the belief that it was unfair to allow the continued exploitation of small farmers who, in the absence of having their own land to cultivate, were forced to pay exorbitant land rents to those who owned large acres of farmlands. To Forbes Burnham, this act of gross exploitation was not in keeping with the newly initiated socialist ideology, but rather it was an excerpt of the former capitalist and colonial systems. Land to the tiller brought an end to landlordism in the agricultural sector. As the machinery of agricultural development got turning, farmers were able to benefit from a number of government support initiatives, such as the MMA and Blackbush Cold Rice Development Projects, the establishment of the Guyana Marketing Corporation, the agency set up to facilitate the procurement and sale of farmers' produce and byproducts, and the Guyana Agricultural Industry and Development Bank, which offered. Farming was not only encouraged on a large scale, but cash crop farming by small farmers was also encouraged. Likewise, every citizen was influenced to participate in kitchen gardening as one way of being able to adequately feed their family. Hence, every old pot, pan, basin, and bucket came to life with fresh greens and vegetables. Kitchen gardens flourished where flower gardens once stood, and even carpets were utilized for this purpose. And I can remember as a child anxiously looking out of my parents' window on hearing the footsteps of Comrade Burnham's horse as it came through the community in Kitty where we lived, sharing his cassava and sweet potato sticks and seeds to residents in the community, encouraging everyone to be a part of the Grow More Food campaign. Daylight saving time was introduced to Guyana for the first time, and this was mainly to afford workers the opportunity to be able to spend some time in their kitchen garden after a day's work, and farmers more time on their farms. The slogan, "Produce or Perish," became the national cry, and Guyana saw the advent of the now plagiarized national exhibition, which was mainly for the showcasing of farmers' produce and byproducts, and to emphasize the need for us to grow local and buy local. Today, this event is by and large a grand bubble session. It was during this period that agriculture science was incorporated in the school's curriculum and could be written at the CXC level. The establishment of the Guyana School of Agriculture and the National Agricultural Research Institute, which afforded technical and scientific support, took agriculture to another level. With the Feed the Nation campaign and Guyana being termed the breadbasket of the Caribbean, the words hunger and starvation were erased from one's vocabulary. However, while many saw wisdom in this new phase of development, there were those who were bent on creating mischief and defeating the works of progress. As Forbes Burnham said on the revolutionizing of the economy, and I quote, "This is not achieved by bare enthusiasm, rhetoric, and the passing of resolutions. The opposition is and will be great. The legacies of the old order, based on on man's exploitation of man are attractive to the uninitiated. The tactics of the enemy are varied and subtle." End of quote. There were many mischievous tactics that were employed to stalemate the process. These were overly evident and active in the sugar industry. The consistent burning of cane fields about to be harvested, which was done by tying gasoline-soaked rice bags onto cats, who were then set loose among the rows of cane after setting the bags alight, and the famous 135-day strike, which commenced in August 1977 and engineered by Gawu, sought to damage the sugar production export target of that year and cripple the sugar industry. Forbes Burnham had envisioned such problems, and I quote again, "The most desperate human vehicles, from arch conservatives to phrase-mongering revolutionaries, will be used to defeat our purpose. In the circumstances, the party must be highly organized and well-trained to mobilize the nation, give leadership to the people, and identify and rout the enemy, regardless of the guise in which he clothes himself." End of quote. The sugar strike of August 1977 saw the military being put into action, not with guns, but with machetes and cutlasses, swung into action to preserve the well-being of the nation. Even though these military personnel were not skilled cane cutters, their efforts and patriotism saw Guyana surpassing the required sugar export target for that year. With these facts at hand, we can now safely say that the now trumpetized Grow More Food campaign is a photocopy of Burnham's ingenious Feed the Nation program. Where he led, others now follow.